What if the most beautiful, most powerful being God ever created turned out to be the most dangerous? What if the very first rebellion in all of existence wasn't started by humans or monsters or kings, but by an angel? And what if that angel once stood so close to God that heaven itself was built around him? His name was Lucifer. Today, the world remembers him as Satan. Long before Earth existed, before Adam, before Eve, before humanity ever drew a single breath, there was only heaven. An endless expanse of pure spirit and light, home to millions of angels. But forget everything you picture when you hear that word. These weren't soft, harmless creatures with feathery wings. They were living spirits of overwhelming power, blinding speed, and sharp intelligence. God gave each one a rank and a purpose, a perfect order that kept the entire heavenly kingdom running in harmony. Which raises the question, out of millions of angels, who stood above them all? Only one. God had given him more wisdom, more beauty, and more power than any being before him. It should have been enough. But Lucifer wanted more, a higher power still. And that one desire would cost him everything. From heaven's greatest angel to the Prince of Darkness, the complete story of Lucifer. Every angel in heaven had a name, but only one had a name no other being would ever share. Light-bearer, morning star. That title wasn't just poetry. Morning star was the brightest point of light in the sky, the one that outshines the darkness right before dawn breaks. Out of millions of angels, God chose exactly one to carry that name, Lucifer. And the name was only the beginning. God gave him a job no one else in creation would ever hold. Guardian of the throne itself. Some old traditions call him the covering cherub, the one angel positioned close enough to God's presence to shelter it. Not somewhere in the kingdom. At the very center of it. Picture this. Gemstones, topaz, emerald, jasper said to cover him like armor, catching God's light and throwing it back out in every direction. Stand near him, and you wouldn't just see brightness. You'd feel like you were standing inside it. Even his voice wasn't ordinary. Old accounts describe him as having instruments built directly into his body pipes, timbrels, so that music didn't come from an instrument he played. It came from him. When Lucifer sang, it wasn't one voice. It was an orchestra. For a long, long time, none of that power caused a single problem. Heaven ran like a perfect rhythm. No sadness, no anger, no jealousy, just harmony, repeating, day after day. Lucifer would rise and open the song. Millions of angels would answer him at once. Wave after wave of praise would roll toward the throne, and God would watch his creation move together and delight in it. Stand in that room for a second. Millions of voices, perfectly timed. All of it built around one angel leading the way. That was Lucifer's entire existence. The highest rank, the most beauty, a voice unmatched by anything else God had made. It looked permanent. It wasn't, because somewhere underneath all that perfection, something inside Lucifer had already started to shift. Have you ever caught your own reflection and lingered on it a little too long? Now imagine this. Every time you moved, gemstones across your body threw back the very light of God. Every time you spoke, it sounded like an orchestra, not a single voice. That was Lucifer's everyday reality, and little by little, it started working against him. He began passing the same corners of heaven more often, not to worship, but to catch his own reflection. He watched his gems flash with color as the throne's light struck them. He listened to his own voice fill the halls and realized nothing in heaven. Not one voice among millions could match it. I truly am magnificent. One quiet thought, and it changed everything. Before, when Lucifer looked toward the throne, he thought, "Look how great my Creator is." Now he looked at his reflection and thought, "Look how great I am." The beauty God gave him as a gift had quietly turned into something else, a mirror he couldn't stop checking. His wisdom, once used to serve, began serving only him. His talent, once an offering, became fuel for his own image. Then came the thought that would shape everything after it. The praise shouldn't pass through him to the throne anymore. It should stop at him. Many traditions call this the first sin in all of creation: pride, born in heaven, long before anything on earth existed. And it didn't announce itself. No other angel noticed a thing. Millions kept singing, still certain their leader was exactly who he'd always been. Only Lucifer knew that something new was taking root inside him. Quiet, unspoken, not yet ready to be named. We call it pride when we see it in someone else. What do you call it when it's your own reflection staring back? No successful uprising in history starts with one person charging alone. It starts with numbers. And whatever else had changed in Lucifer, his mind was still sharp enough to... He didn't want to be a servant anymore, not even the highest servant in existence. He wanted to be the master. He wanted the throne. He wanted the crown. He wanted the worship, and this time, all of it staying with him. But Lucifer was smart. He knew exactly what would happen if he tried to face God alone. God wasn't just powerful. God was the source of all power in existence. A one-angel attack wouldn't even qualify as a fight. It would be over before it started. So, if Lucifer wanted the throne, he needed something else first. Numbers. Enough angels standing behind him to overwhelm the entire kingdom at once. The light-bearer became a politician. He began slipping quietly through heaven, moving between its different ranks. Some traditions describe layers like thrones, powers, and principalities, each holding its own piece of creation's order. Lucifer worked his way through them, one at a time, always in secret. He used the two things no one in heaven could match: his voice and his mind. Not to lead worship this time, to twist the truth. Quietly, patiently, planting doubt exactly where it would grow best. He'd find a group of angels at their post, sit down among them, and speak like a concerned friend, someone finally brave enough to say what everyone else was too afraid to. Why do we follow all these rules, day after day? Look at your own strength. Why does the Creator get all the credit, while we do all the work? Don't you want to know what else you're capable of? He never sounded angry. He never sounded evil. He sounded like a leader who genuinely cared about their freedom. He told them God was holding them back, keeping them from their true potential. And he made them a promise: follow him, and the rules would disappear. Higher rank, full independence, no more limits. He went to the warrior angels, first the strongest spirits in existence, built for power and battle. You have the strength to rule entire worlds, he told them. Why let yourselves be treated like simple guards? Follow me, and you'll be generals of a new kingdom. Imagine being one of them, spending your entire existence as a guard, and suddenly being told you were always meant to be a general. Something stirred. Ambition. In spirits who'd never had a reason to feel it before. Lucifer leaned in and gave it a name. Follow me. Next came the angels of wisdom and knowledge. God is keeping things from you, he told them. Real wisdom has no limits. Stay here, and you'll only ever know what you're permitted to know. Come with me, and we'll go further than any being ever has. Minds built to question everything finally turned that instinct on their own existence and started seeing Lucifer not as a rebel, but as a champion of free thought. Week after week, the whispers kept moving through heaven's valleys, across its heights, spreading like something contagious. And Lucifer wasn't careless about who he chose. He watched for angels who craved recognition, who were easy to flatter, who already felt a little overlooked. Those were the ones he returned to. Far from the throne, in heaven's furthest corners, he built secret meeting places somewhere his growing number of followers could gather, trade complaints about God's laws, and plan what came next. And slowly, heaven began to change. The songs of worship still played every day, but they felt heavier now, less like celebration, more like routine. A strange tension moved through the air. For the first time since existence began, something was splitting heaven in two. Angels who had stood shoulder to shoulder since the beginning of time started watching each other sideways. Here's the part that should unsettle you most. The loyal angels felt it too. Something was wrong. They could sense it. The way you sense a room's gone quiet in the wrong way. But they had nothing to point to. No proof. No name for it. Because every time Lucifer stood near the throne, he was still the same devoted worship leader he'd always been. Same voice, same brilliance, same perfect place beside the light. Imagine standing beside him in that moment, watching him lead the song exactly as he always had, having no idea that the angel radiating light beside you had already turned. In the end, his plan worked exactly as he'd designed it. 1/3 of all the angels in heaven believed his lies. That number didn't stay buried in this moment alone. It resurfaces later in the book of Revelation, where 1/3 of the stars fall from the sky, a passage many read as pointing straight back to this event. Millions of powerful spirit warriors turned their backs on their creator and swore total loyalty to the morning star. They stopped looking to the throne for guidance and started waiting on Lucifer for orders instead. Lucifer looked out at what he'd built in secret. Millions of shining spirits ready to fight for him, ready to die for him. Commanders, warriors, thinkers, all of it, standing under his banner now. He didn't need the shadows anymore. He didn't need to whisper in hidden corners anymore. The time for talking was over. It was time to take what he believed was already his. Silence. That was the last sound heaven would ever make in peace. Lucifer walked out onto heaven's golden plains. He passed straight by the very guard post he had been assigned to protect. He raised his hand and pointed it directly at the throne of God and declared war. The sound of his defiance didn't stay contained to one place. It tore across the entire spiritual realm, and heaven itself shuddered in shock. On the other side of the kingdom, the loyal angels didn't hesitate for a second. They moved instantly, ready to defend the honor of their king. Leading them was Michael, a fierce, quiet, completely faithful archangel, one of only a small number of angels ever given that title at all. One detail matters more than it seems. Lucifer's name meant light bearer, morning star. Michael's name meant something entirely different. Who is like God, not a boast? A question. In the next few moments, that question was about to answer itself. This exact confrontation, Michael leading heaven's loyal armies into war, is the same clash, many trace to a passage written centuries later in the book of Revelation, describing war breaking out in heaven itself. Michael didn't wear Lucifer's jewels. Nothing on him caught the light or threw it back in color. What covered him instead couldn't be worn as decoration. The unyielding power of God's own justice. He raised a horn to his lips and blew one long note, calling the righteous host to gather. Behind him stood the remaining 2/3 of the heavenly host, a massive sea of shining light, loyal to the last angel, ready to drive the rebels out. The two sides came together on the grand plains of heaven. On one side, Lucifer, drunk on his own pride and arrogance, backed by millions of rebel angels who believed they were about to take the universe for themselves. On the other, Michael, calm and resolute, backed by a massive army of loyal servants. The contrast between them was impossible to miss. One army fought for self-glory and pride. The other fought out of pure love and loyalty to their Creator. Then the silence broke completely, and both armies charged. What followed was wild, chaotic, terrifying, even by heaven's standards. Remember, these were spirits, not soldiers. No iron swords, no shields, no wooden chariots. Their only weapons were raw, spiritual energy, unleashed at full force. Lightning crashed across the sky without pause. The very foundations of the spiritual realm shook violently every time the two forces collided. Above the battlefield, the sky twisted into a swirling storm of bright gold and deep, dark purple, as opposing energies slammed into one another again and again. If you'd stood at the edge of that battlefield, you wouldn't have needed anyone to tell you who was winning. You'd have felt it in the ground shaking under your feet. Lucifer fought with a desperation soaked in pure rage. He believed his own hype, completely believed he was smart enough, strong enough to win this outright. He tore through the lines of loyal angels, desperate to cut a straight path to the throne and rip the crown from God with his own hands. His fallen angels fought beside him, turning power that once led worship into something dark and twisted, striking down angels who used to be their brothers. Lucifer himself became a whirlwind of destruction, blasting aside anyone who dared stand in his way. But Michael and his army didn't give an inch. They stood like a solid, unbreakable wall of fire. They weren't fighting for fame. They weren't fighting for power. They stood with the full weight of absolute truth behind them, and no matter how hard Lucifer pushed, no matter how much rage he poured into every strike, he could not force them backward. Every time a rebel angel struck, the loyal angels answered not with equal force, but with a counterattack fueled by the very strength of God himself. Michael fought with the Creator's direct authority behind him. That kind of power cannot be beaten. This war was about to prove one of the oldest truths in existence, the hard way. A created being can never defeat the mind that created him. The battle raged on across the heavenly plains for what felt, in a realm outside of time, like ages. The very ground split apart under the force of the clashing spirits. But slowly, the tide began to turn. Lucifer's immense strength started running out. His brilliant mind, the same mind that had outthought millions, spiraled into confusion as, one by one, his strategies failed. His own army felt it before he did. Panic spread through the rebel ranks as Michael's forces advanced, steady and crushing, giving no ground back. Every ounce of confidence Lucifer's whispers had planted in them vanished the instant they came face to face with the raw reality of God's justice. The rebel lines began to fracture. Warriors broke and ran, searching for somewhere, anywhere, to hide. But that's the one thing heaven never had. Shadows, corners, somewhere dark enough to disappear into, not in a kingdom built entirely out of light. In the middle of all that chaos, Michael finally found him, the two greatest angels in all of heaven, standing face to face. Lucifer lunged forward with every last trace of hatred and rage still left in his spirit. Michael didn't even need to strain. He moved past the attack with ease, and with the full authority given to him by the king, delivered one decisive, crushing blow. It was finished. Lucifer was completely defeated. His rebellion didn't just lose. It broke apart entirely, his weapons shattered, his lines collapsed, his entire army scattered in an instant. The gates of heaven flew open. Michael drove what remained of the rebels straight to the edge of the kingdom. And Lucifer, once the most beautiful, most powerful being God had ever created, was physically thrown out, the gates sealed behind him. But this was only the beginning of his story. For one instant, everything in existence turned toward the same point in the sky, and every voice in creation went silent. Angels, stars, every corner of existence that had eyes to see with, because the brightest being God had ever made was falling out of the sky like a flash of lightning. That image didn't end with this moment. Centuries later, one line in the Gospels would describe this exact scene: Satan, falling like lightning, cast down from heaven. A single sentence, written long after the fact, but this is the moment it's describing. As he fell, farther and farther from the throne, from the only light he had ever known, something about him started coming undone. The gemstones covering his body, the ones that used to catch God's own light and scatter it in color, split apart and crumbled. What remained looked nothing like jewels anymore, just dull, blackened coal. The instruments built into his voice, the ones that once made him sound like an entire orchestra, broke apart piece by piece. What used to be the most beautiful sound in heaven turned into something almost unrecognizable, a shrieking, broken cry, soaked in a hatred and regret that would never fade. Everything beautiful about him was peeled away, one layer at a time, until only one thing was left standing underneath: his pride, with nowhere left to hide it. A thick, choking darkness swallowed him as he tumbled through the stars, down and down and down, until he dropped into a vast, empty abyss, completely cut off from the glory he used to stand inside of. Behind him came the rest. Millions of rebel angels, falling the same way, streaking down like a meteor shower of dying light, into that same waiting dark. The fall itself felt endless. Maybe that was the point. Some distances can't be measured in space, only in how far something has dropped, not through the sky, but away from grace itself. Two places, two realities, happening in the very same moment. Because up in heaven, none of that darkness lingered, not even for a second. The instant Lucifer and his army were gone, the air cleared instantly, pure, calm, as if none of it had ever happened. Every trace of the storm, clouds that rebellion had dragged in, disappeared from the sky. The throne's golden light rolled back across the landscape, brighter than it had been in what felt like ages. All that tension, all that quiet suspicion in the air gone, like it had never existed at all. The loyal angels didn't hold back. Cheers rose first. Then the singing started, full-throated songs of victory, spreading from one end of heaven to the other, and the harmony that came out of it felt sweeter than before, fuller, more powerful, because the one voice that had quietly been pulling the whole song out of tune was finally gone. The ranks closed back up. Heaven was whole again. But down in the dark, far below all of that celebration, Lucifer landed alone, in the empty places of the lower universe. No throne beside him, no gems, no music. He wasn't the light bearer anymore. That name belonged to someone who didn't exist anymore. Now he had a new name: Satan, the adversary. But that wasn't the only one. A second title came with it. The devil, a word that traces back to the Greek diabolos, meaning slanderer or accuser, a fitting name for a being who once turned heaven's own truth into a lie, one whisper at a time. The name the universe had once used for its brightest angel, the one that meant light-bearer, morning star, was gone. This is the name that replaced it. Every fallen villain's story could end right here. Beaten, broken, thrown out of paradise with nothing left of what he used to be. But Lucifer's story doesn't end in the pit. This is where the real one begins. He sat alone in the dark, bruised, battered, stripped of every last trace of the glory he once wore. Above him, impossibly far away, the light of heaven still burned. Close enough to see, too far to ever touch again. Centuries later, a prophet would describe this exact image. A being once called Day Star, son of the dawn, brought down from the heights of heaven to the farthest reaches of the pit. This was that moment. Looking up at that light didn't break him. It hardened something inside him, a hatred so deep it would never cool, never fade, never end. For the first time, Lucifer understood his situation with total clarity. His beauty was gone. Forever. Whatever power he had left would always be limited now, a fraction of what it used to be. And somewhere ahead of him, waiting at the very end of everything, was total destruction. That kind of clarity should have broken him. Instead, it drove him half mad with bitter, burning anger. Because Lucifer wasn't finished. Not even close. Even here, cast down into the lowest place he'd ever known, his pride wouldn't let him call this defeat. So in the dark, he gathered what was left of his army around him. Millions of fallen angels, still loyal, still waiting on his word. And out of nothing but shadow, he began building something new, a kingdom of his own. He understood two things with total certainty. He could never return to heaven, and he could never beat God in a direct fight. That door was sealed shut for good. So Lucifer set his sights on something else, someone else, and began shaping a plan far darker than anything he'd tried before. God's newest creation, beings made from nothing but dust and earth. Fragile, physical, nothing like an angel. Fitting, in a way, even their name would come from that same dust. Adam, some would call the first of them, a name built from the very ground they were made of. But Lucifer knew exactly how much God loved these fragile new creatures. And he knew something else, something that must have burned worse than the fall itself. These beings made of dirt had just been handed something no angel, not even the highest one, had ever held. Dominion. Authority over the entire physical world. That was enough. Lucifer had found his next target. If he couldn't strike God's throne, he'd strike God's heart instead by dragging his new children down into the very same darkness he now called home. I will destroy everything good you have made, he swore, alone in the dark. All of it. However long it takes. He already knew exactly how he'd do it too. The same lies that had once turned a third of heaven against its own creator. Promises of freedom, of pride, of independence. He'd use them again. Same playbook. New audience. The goal was simple. Turn God's newest children away from him. The same way he'd turned so many angels before them. The star that was made to lead the morning chose, instead, to rule the night. And from that moment forward, he would spend the rest of history trying to drag everyone he could reach down into the same ruin he had already fallen into himself. The angel who once wanted the highest throne in all of creation ended up at the very bottom of it. Living proof for any being anywhere who might ever consider the same move, that nothing and no one can stand against the throne of the Most High. The war in heaven was over, but somewhere below, on ground that didn't even exist yet, a much longer war was only just beginning. And this time, the target wasn't an angel, it was us. And that is where Lucifer's story leaves us, not just with a fallen angel, but with a warning that still speaks to every human heart, because Lucifer did not fall because he was weak. He fell because he forgot he was created. He looked at the beauty God gave him and treated it like something he owned. He looked at his wisdom and turned it into a weapon. He looked at his position and began to believe he deserved the throne. That is how pride works. It does not destroy you all at once. It whispers first. It tells you that you are different, that you deserve more, that submission is weakness, that gratitude is beneath you. And if you listen long enough, the gift God gave you can become the very thing that pulls you away from Him. Lucifer's tragedy is that he had everything except humility. He stood near the throne, but he wanted to sit on it. He led worship, but secretly wanted worship for himself. He lived in the light, but allowed darkness to grow inside him. And when pride fully matured, it did what pride always does. It separated him from God. That is the lesson we cannot ignore. Any life built on pride will eventually collapse. Any heart that refuses to bow will eventually break. Any gift that is not surrendered back to God can become dangerous in the hands of the one who carries it. Talent without humility becomes arrogance. Beauty without gratitude becomes vanity. Power without obedience becomes rebellion. And knowledge without reverence becomes deception. But this story also reminds us of something powerful. God's throne cannot be shaken. Heaven did not fall when Lucifer rebelled. God was not surprised. God was not threatened. The rebellion was loud, but it was temporary. The pride was great, but the throne was greater. Darkness rose, but it could not overcome the light. So when you see evil moving in the world, when you feel temptation pulling at your own heart, when pride begins to whisper that you can live without God, remember Lucifer. Remember what he had. Remember what he lost. And remember where pride took him. The safest place in the universe is not the highest position. It is not the loudest platform. It is not the place where everyone admires you. The safest place in the universe is surrendered at the feet of God. Lucifer wanted to rise above the throne and became Satan in the pit. But every humble soul that bows before God will be lifted by the very hand Lucifer tried to fight. So guard your heart. Stay humble. Give God the glory for every gift you carry. And never forget this truth. The moment you stop worshiping God, you will start worshiping yourself. If this story opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to hear this warning. Someone who is fighting pride. Someone who is drifting from God. Someone who needs to remember that no one can stand against the throne of the Most High. And if you want more powerful Bible stories like this, subscribe now and turn on the notification bell. We are just getting started. There are more hidden stories, more spiritual warnings, and more ancient truths coming soon. Before you leave, comment, "I choose humility," if you want God to keep your heart close to Him. Because Lucifer's story is not just about how darkness began. It is a warning about how darkness enters. And it is a reminder that the only way to remain in the light is to stay surrendered to the one who created it.